Hi, everyone. My name is Debbie, and I am on the iRise board. And today we are doing iRise Experience. We're so excited to have you. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, visit our website. I'm so excited to have this conversation with the other fellow board member about having a first job. Like, how do you navigate that? What does that look like? So, we're going to run it all the way down from looking to a job, what to do when you get hired, what happens if you don't get hired, everything you need to know. We're going to talk about it. So you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yes, hello everyone. My name is DeVore McIntosh, and I deal with the production side of iRise Wellness. I'm very excited about this topic. It's something that I feel as though we do not discuss a lot because we're very competitive, like in comparison with our peers. And I just think it's important to have this knowledge when you are really looking to start yourself in the real world, as we all call it, when we're leaving college or just leaving high school. Just knowing what to look for, what to do, and how to navigate these pitfalls because they are out there. They are real.
Yeah, they are. And especially as a person of color and a minority, it's a different experience. And
Mhm.
so this is the audience that we talk to with iRise. So we're excited to bring our knowledge and our stories to these tips and advice. So you want to go ahead and kick it off where the timeline, just like navigating it. If you're a student, just being a senior, I think that's what you're saying. Like if you're a senior and you're about to get ready to go into the real world.
Well, yeah, as a senior, you have this angst, this thirst just to be done with everything because it's been a long road of 4 or 5 years plus, maybe for most. And you have your major that you finally narrowed in on. You're like, okay, this is what I'm going to utilize to make money. What do I do? How do you look for work? Um, so, like a lot of the resources on campus that should be around is like career services, where they will have excellent tips for resume creation, cover letters, workshops, networking. I think that's the main key. But, my first job, I don't even think I went to those workshops, maybe once or twice, but you should really utilize every piece, every resource you have available to you. Your best friend, your mother, the person who oversees the career services workshop, anybody, recruiters, everyone, have them allow you to specialize your resume if it needs to be specialized in a certain field so that it reads well. Because depending on the industry that you are entering, your resume needs to look very different. I can speak from my own lens, and then I'll pass it to you. Being in higher education, they don't mind having a lot of like your leadership opportunities, your community service, more kind of like certification, student group type stuff, especially leaving college. That shows that you are a personable person because you are going to be dealing with many different types of stakeholders, community members, students, parents, faculty, staff, and you need to be someone who's able to effectively communicate with those. So my resume, it showed, I think I had probably four or five jobs. I was a camp counselor at 20. I worked for the Department of Education as a teenager in high school. I held several jobs on campus that ranged from working in the campus recreation department to student engagement. So I showed that I had a good experience dealing with many types of individuals, many types of people, stakeholders, and community members. So my resume spoke to that. And also being a part of an organization, Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, it showed that I was able to be over kind of a larger entity. So that was my resume experience. And when I look back, it wasn't the best, but it helped me get my foot in the door.
Definitely actually went to those workshops. I was a nerd. I did that and it was really helpful. I will say go to YouTube, get as much knowledge as you can, and don't be afraid to talk to your teachers or talk to your guidance counselors, whatever it is. One of the things I would say that I wish I would have known for looking for a job, getting ready for it, is letter of recommendations. Please collect those
Yes.
and stay in touch with people that from high school, from middle school, a community service, a church, whatever you're involved with, get those people to write you a recommendation letter and stay in contact with them, because when employers are like looking, sometimes they still require it. It's just good to have these people to always rely on, and it helps build your network even as a teenager and going into adulthood. So definitely that's my biggest advice is get those letters of recommendations and collect those and stay on track. But yeah, so we kind of talked about preparing for the job, the resume, and everything like that. How did you find your job? Like, what was the search process like for you? How did you find your first job? What was that like?
Well, I think I aged myself a little bit because YouTube, I forgot that you can use YouTube for these sources, but now it's very big. And yes, the letters of recommendation were very important, very key to speak on your character, because something that you can put on your resume as you've already worked for a number of years is the experience to speak on your character. Because if you have a certain longevity at a place, it kind of speaks of who you are. But yes, it's important. I really just tapped into my network. I wanted to go back home because I was away for college and I wanted to get back to New York City. So I looked at higher ed jobs. It's still around. It may not have the best interface, but it gives you thousands and thousands and thousands of jobs, especially New York City, that metro. And you just search and you say, well, at that time, it was anything that can get me back to New York City. So it may not have been the best targeted search that I would have liked at such a young age, but when you're young and you're just trying to put some money in your pocket because of the loom and gloom of student loans that is there and is very real, and it's just what can I do to get myself noticed, and where are these jobs? Because you hear all the time that there's job creation and that there's openings, but it's once you understand like the mechanisms how people are hiring, you understand that it's tougher than it seems. I don't know if I answered that properly.
Yeah, I think jumping in here, one of the biggest things I wish I would have known was how important it is to just know the right people, because a lot of jobs that are out there are not posted. So yes, we know to go on Indeed.com, LinkedIn.com, make sure that you're on LinkedIn, make sure you work on that profile and work on your digital resume. I think we didn't get a chance to talk about that, but have an online presence because that's what employers are looking at, right? So work on that. Like, yes, you're on social media for fun, but start to really take it seriously. That's one of the best ways to find a job is talking to people and just letting them know I'm available. I am ready, and don't be afraid of the scum jobs, like the ones that is not paying you a lot, but it gets you experience into the thing you really want to do. I think sometimes we get so focused on salary and all this other stuff, and I understand it is important. Money is, hey, we gotta have some money, but don't be afraid to start at the bottom, scrub that floor or whatever it is, just to get into the room where the people you really want to work with. Be ready to do stuff like that. Be willing to bring value and something to someone, and just put yourself out there. Learn how to pitch yourself. You got to learn how to get confident, wear the right clothes, and I think I've heard this before, where you dress for the job that you want, not the job that you have. So when you're searching and you're looking, you need to have that mindset. If you're not working right now, 8 hours a day, you need to be on the websites. You need to be asking people. You need to be calling people. You need to work on your resume. There's always something you can be doing to help your skills, and volunteering. So let's say you still can't find a job, go volunteer, do something so someone can see that you are giving value. And that's really important. And once you get that job, so let's like talk about the interview, that whole process, like, okay, somebody's interested in me. Now what? What's been your experience with that?
The biggest thing that I think a lot of people don't do is they don't research the company that they're looking to enter, because we're so busy at trying to get to an interview or just get a job that when they say yes, out of maybe the dozens or hundreds of applications that you submitted just to hear one yes, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll do it. But you know absolutely nothing about the company.
Right.
So you need to speak to the company when you're in that seat and they're interviewing you. Let them know that you actually know something about them, and that if we hire you, it's not just because you need it, but you actually have a fervor or passion for their company to help them grow. Because most businesses, like, you're thinking about the bottom line. So if you don't bring value to their space or their company, and you show up and you say, well, I'm here because, I want to make some money.
Right.
You're not going to get hired. And that's probably a sad reality, especially if you don't have that network that can speak to you. Exactly. So you have to show up and let them know that if the roles were switched, you could do their job. That may be a little too risky or kind of weird to say, but you need to project the confidence that, oh, this person can do this job or task that I'm asking and more.
Yeah.
And they probably don't have to pay you what you probably should be earning. So they'll be more inclined to hire you or bring you in for a second round where you can really polish off and show them why you deserve this job. So yeah.
Yeah, I just let me add on to that. Google is your best friend with interviews. Why? Because one thing you have to do, and this is what I learned, is find out the name of the recruiter or the person you're
Mm,
interviewing with and go Google them. Literally say, you know what? Is it James Johnson? And go try to find him on LinkedIn. Find out if he has a dog. Does he play golf? Find some commonalities in the interview. Like just make it and yes, it is nerve wracking when it's your first job and you're really trying to make an impression and you're trying to make this money. You got to relax and kind of, just kind of be yourself. Yes, you want to be confident. Always do your research. Like he said, do your research on the position, but also do your research and know how much money you want to require. And we're gonna talk about that a little bit later, negotiating, but have an idea of what this position is like. Don't just research the job, research other job descriptions on Google. Make sure
yes.
that you really get like, what am I supposed to do? And this is the thing, a lot of you won't have experience. Sometimes you're literally, it's your first job, right? You don't have a lot of experience. Some people are like, well, I didn't do any internships. I didn't do a work study. The thing is, it's you that they're hiring. It's your skill
Yes.
set, but it's really you. So you got to sell you. And when you get confident, like, I have never done Adobe Analytics or whatever, bio, whatever, chemistry, whatever it is. I've never done it. I am a student, but I want to really work for you. And some of the
Mm,
best things with the interview is you start strong and you admit where you don't know things. And that's okay. I
yes.
personally think it's
Yes.
okay. Don't lie. Please do
No,
not lie in
no, no, no,
interviews
no,
that
no.
you know how to do something. And they're like, really? And they may challenge you on it. I know some people, if you get interviewed for Google, there's like behavior questions or something like that. So just figure out what company you're researching and like figure out like what their interview process is. So I think that's good. Let's kind of like shift gears. Like, what if you get hired, or what if you don't get hired? What
Mm.
is some tips and advice on that? Like, what
I
do you
think I'll
think?
tackle the if you do get hired.
Yeah.
If you do
Okay.
get hired, you want to focus on, okay, so what's next? If it is in a location that you desired, is it close? Is it hundreds of miles away? Is it states away? You have to think about the next steps. You have to think about, okay, where am I going to live? Is this salary that I negotiated able to allow me to live a sustainable life?
Yeah.
Um, Take a look at your debt. Will this cover everything? Think about what you want to do when you're not working, because work-life balance is very important. You can make all the money in the world, but what are you doing outside of the office? Is the environment that you're going to be entering outside of work one that you would like? So if you're relocating, will they cover the relocation fees? Will you be reimbursed? Are you close to family, friends? If not, what is the social atmosphere like? Because that is important for some people. I mean, some people like to just work, but some people like to live and work.
Mm.
So you have to think about those outside aspects. And then if it doesn't add up, how can I bring a an argument to the job that says I need X amount of funds, or I need to be in this bracket range so that I can say yes to this position? And being, I would say, able minded enough to say, this doesn't fit what I need, and being unafraid to say, I will not take this position because it will not allow me to be a happy individual. So these are things that have to balance is, do I take the job? Do I be happy? Or I don't have a job. I have student loans maybe. And, my peers are all trending upwards and I'm not trending. So it's trying to find that happy medium and that balance in yourself. Always look inward when you're looking for a job, not outward. What is going to make you happy? What will make you whole? Because if you're not looking inward and being whole within yourself, and you're always looking to the left or the right, or my friend just got this 6-figure position at Google, I'm here looking at 5 figures, how can I keep up? So don't think about everyone else. Think about yourself. And just be happy with the fact that you were accepted for this position. So you can speak on this when you're looking for a new job. If you do not take the position, like, this is what I'm looking for. This is what I need. And this will strengthen you in the long run. And that's if you get hired. And then if you take it, I mean,
Right.
congratulations.
Right. Right. I'm going to jump in here. So let's say you don't get hired. Let's say you literally listen to the advice and you're like, Man, I listened to y'all and I still didn't get the job. That is life. Welcome to adulthood. Sometimes you're going to get rejected. And I feel like sometimes we hype up children and even adults, rejection is a part of the process.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes you're qualified and you still don't get it, or sometimes you did everything you can. So I just want to give a tip to that. And then let's jump into once you get hired, what does that look like? So for me, I think realize that, yeah, you didn't get hired, but look, don't be salty. What you want to do is you still want to send that follow-up thank you email. Even if they
Mhm.
rejected you, send that follow-up email and say thank you for the opportunity. Stay in contact with them on LinkedIn. You just never know when they have another opportunity that you may be interested in, or you just get to know them personally. You never know. So don't close off that connection just because it wasn't the right fit. But also ask yourself, what could have I did better in this, right? This is the time to reflect, not to look at yourself and say, oh my gosh, I didn't do it right. I didn't. No, just what can I do? Maybe I need to, research a little bit more, but get back into the hunt.
Yes.
Don't swallow in, like, oh my gosh, nobody's going to hire me. This is my dream job and I didn't get it. It's a part of life. Get used
Hmm.
to rejection because it's okay. That door said no, but the next door might say yes. So keep knocking until you get that position. And it may not be your ideal dream job, but be willing to continue to work and work on your skills. So let's jump into like once you're hired, like those first 30 days, those first few weeks. What are some of the best things to expect? Getting to know the right people. What is your advice on that?
I think the best thing to do when you step into a new position is to greet everyone. Uh, Greet everyone from your supervisors to your coworkers. In my field, it was higher education. So I walked around campus. I met the students. I spoke with them. I asked them questions. I spoke about what it was like before I was here. I spoke about what they want to see in the future and how I can align my goals with theirs. You have to be someone that's willing to learn your environment because that's going to set you up for if this position is for you or if it's not for you. But we'll get into that later. So it's learn the culture. That's very important because a lot of things that we see, maybe it's a big firm and we see all these commercials, we hear all these good stories about how it's lavish and things are well, but you get into an environment, the culture is just very, very draining. It's either draining or unhealthy because of certain practices, certain behaviors, maybe some antiquated thoughts, ways that people view maybe men, women, gender, sexuality, things like that, religion. It all may have seemed like it was wrapped in gold, but it was literally just dirt or coal, whatever.
Yeah.
That's very important because you have to really pivot and say, okay, I'm gonna lay roots, or maybe I should keep my eyes open on other opportunities. So that's something that I took with me wherever I went. Me personally, I always take the first year, especially in higher ed. Like the first year, you're not going to know anything, especially in academic realm. You have to go through a full year to know the ebbs and flows of an institution. So I always give a year. That's the year that I'm learning. And then my second year is, have I progressed? Is there room for growth? And then you can maybe pivot out of there and see where your next step is. So it's always about learning and adapting and seeing if you can pivot upwards, if you're looking for upwards mobility or looking elsewhere.
I would say, just to add to that amazing advice, I would add to that, document your accomplishments. Why? Because you need to update that resume. Because I would have, like, every time I did something as an intern, whatever, I would have a Word document. I'm like, okay, so I did this. I was a part of this project. Like, document what you're doing because it'll help build your resume. It'll help you remember. And when you're negotiating for that salary raise, you have the documentation there. Hey, I did this. I was a part of it. You know what I mean? So I think documenting your accomplishments is so important. And I forgot to do it in some positions, but I think it's really good because then you can have that knowledge and you could present it to other opportunities or just to have it for yourself. I think the other thing is being a minority. If you're, especially if you're going to corporate, I know you said higher education. I'm coming from the business background, like, your Googles, your links, your Fords. I'm used to like corporate, like real corporate America. You know what I mean? So I think those first 30 days, make sure you look the part, right?
Mm.
Make sure that you take time to actually present. Now, if the culture is Facebook, like where you're the hoodies and you know what I mean? Okay. You know what I mean? And maybe just like he said, scope out the culture, right? Scope it out and what you feel comfortable with, that's what you do. Most white collar jobs, you gotta look the part. But also the number one tip that I learned was find out how you can make your boss look better.
Mm.
So, and why? Why would you do that? Because when you help them look better, they remember you. And then always keep your ears, not for the gossip, because we all know that's going to happen, but no, not all the time, but keep your ears open for value opportunities. Oh man, I wish we knew how to do this, or we've been doing it this way, but we don't have anybody. Keep your ears open and be willing to like, oh, maybe I could do it. Volunteer yourself to do some things, not overextend yourself, but try to push yourself. Don't just be
Mm-hmm.
complacent in that first job. Like, well, I just don't know much. Jump in. And if you make a little mistake, now some people they may try to like, oh, but try. You can't
Mm-hmm.
fail unless you stop trying. And so that's
Yes.
kind of like some good advice. And we kind of touched on this whole work culture. Let's jump into as a minority. How have you navigated adjusting whether toxic environments, realizing this job is not for you, these people are not for you? How have you navigated that? Let's like talk about that.
I feel as though when I was younger, I was very temperamental. So
Mhm.
if I felt slighted in my professional realm, I may have carried that with me. But you have to understand that it's nothing personal. It's business because at the end of the day, there are certain benchmarks that need to be hit. There are certain goals that the board may want to see, and it's your position that these certain initiatives and statistical points have to be hit. So when your supervisor or your coworker is saying, "Hey, XYZ hasn't been done," or "Have you done this?" or "Do you need help with this?" This is important. Don't take it personally that you don't know or that you're slacking off. First off, don't slack off, but do your job. You have to understand that you're not going to work to hang out with your work friend that you just met and like now y'all can just hang out and
Mhm.
whatever. No, you are there for a job. Make sure that your work is done and complete. And then once you know that you are good at your job and everything is complete, then you can really look at, okay, the way that I received this email was a little weird, or this interaction was a little weird. And as like a black man in like certain environments where I am one of few, I'm very aware of how certain things are said, certain policies, certain training sessions that are offered or not offered. And I take stock and I take note, okay, it's been XYZ since this occurred. What has happened since then? Or when I brought this to the proper people that I feel slighted or I feel as though that it's that the workplace is very harmful right now. And you go to your HR, human resources, who are there to protect the employees, um, and just take stock in that. And then if you just realize that that the things that you are saying to HR to help you flourish and be a well-balanced human,
Mhm.
uh, that they aren't hitting those points, then you need to move on because it takes a lot of toll on me as a black man. When I walk into a room, especially in higher ed, where I'm dealing, I mean, like at PWIs and whatnot, I have to look as strong and unassuming at the same time,
Mhm.
which can be a strain on like your mental health. Was as a man, you have to be strong, you have to exude a certain confidence, but as a black man, you also have to look like you won't harm anyone.
Mhm.
So it's very tough sometimes, and people do tone themselves down and they code switch, where you may have like your regular vernacular, but then in certain spaces you'll change it up so you can fit in a little bit more. So it takes a toll mentally, and you just have to understand what it's worth. If it's worth the little 9 to 5 that you can do this, that's fine. But if it's taking a toll on your mental health and you're going to the proper uh, departments and they're still not helping you, then you need to pack it up and move on. Because if you were to drop dead today, they would replace you. So
Right.
always keep in mind that your personal well-being is important as well as the bottom line of the company.
I think that's good. And just to kind of like wrap up, I don't, I agree with everything you said. Just like, okay, so let's say it is a great job and the person really loves it and it's going well, right? It's not toxic. You're not looking for another position. How do you grow in the position that you're in, or how do you grow in each position that you are offered in these different jobs and these different businesses? What are some of your advice? And then I'll kind of like give some of mine. Um, yeah. How have
I
you?
think I think that's when you start to research your position even more, and then you look at the natural progression of a person that has your expertise, your trainings, your credentials, your certifications, and if you want to stay within that certain industry, then you look at the next step. Don't be afraid. Don't branch out. If you don't have the experience per se on paper, if you qualify for 1, 2, 3 points, step up, step in. You have shown that you are adaptable. That's one thing that a lot of us are afraid of is that adaptability and, oh, I don't qualify, so I'm not going to make it. No, there are literal jobs that will pay you for these certifications. They will pay you to adapt if they know that you as a worker is someone that's going to get the job done. So if the work that you have done speaks for itself, they will spare no expense having you qualified for the position. They will even pay for school. So don't ever think that, oh, I'm here, I'm stuck. No, if you're doing great at your position, research and just think of the next step. And if the next step isn't there, then you got to think of plan B. So that's something that I've realized in my own career.
Yeah, I think just to add on, just to feel confident. So you're liking the job and everything's going well, but then you kind of want to step it up, right? And one
Mhm.
of the things that I learned as I grew in my career and just business in general is you got to start networking. It doesn't stop because you're in that position. I mean, if you're working at Google, go talk to somebody at Facebook, go talk to someone at go to these events. Industry events are so important. And I know right now we're in COVID, but there's a lot of virtual events. Show up, especially if you're, maybe you don't have a lot of money, go to the free one. Go to the local meetups, like go and find people, your peers. I think the two things you need to always have. You need to have peer groups, like peers, like, people that are working aside you, about in the same experience level. And then you need to always stretch for mentorship. Always stretch for someone that's a lot higher than you just to see, hey, how can I grow from you? And what I am not saying is every opportunity you get, hey, can you mentor me? That's not the way to do it. The way you do it is you watch them. Let's say they're on a panel, you really admire them. Go look at them on LinkedIn, go buy one of their books, involve yourself in the industry, and then maybe reach out with the opportunity or just let them know, hey, I want to feature you. I have this job project and we're doing a podcast and I would love to have find creative ways to put yourself out there, to brand yourself, whatever it is that you're interested in. Make sure that you know the right people, because no matter what industry or company you may move to, having the right connections matter. And
Yes.
building that network matters more than anything else. And having mentorship matters. And don't think everybody should be your mentor, because sometimes people should, sometimes people shouldn't. But look at
Amen.
associations, join memberships. If you're in education, go find Black educators organizations, or if you're in music or business or whatever, go find them, because they're out there, and gather with your people and grow. Get your certifications, keep growing. Don't just let your education stop at school. You should be educating yourself constantly, whether it's YouTube, it's books, it's people, it's events, whatever it is. But yeah, this is a great conversation.
I
I
know.
think, yeah, it was really, really good. So I do you have any other last words before we wrap up?
Uh, I think something that I learned when I was young as well is that my biggest fear used to be fear of failure. And when I examined that with some of my peers, they said, "Why is that your fear?" I was like, "Well, I don't want to fail, but if you don't try, uh, because you failed, you'll never learn. So through failure is learning is growth. So when you hear that no, or you know, you just feel as though you're stuck, keep trying. Failure is good. Failure shows that you're actually living and you're moving forward. Um, just don't be stuck in failure so much that you're paralyzed, but just always grow. So I think now my biggest fear is the failure to not try. So try.
That's great. So this was a great conversation. Thanks for
Yes.
watching, and make sure that you support iRise Wellness. Go to our website, irisewellness.com. Follow us on social media, YouTube, Instagram, everywhere, and make sure that you support us. We have so many great projects for people of color, Black professionals, Black educators. So this is a great talk. Thanks.
Yes, thank you.